Okay, we are live. And Desiree, I think I cut you off when I started the broadcast.
Yeah, this is Desiree Fox. I just want to make sure because I can't see in an obvious way, but that the applicant for the subdivision map is on the line. I think I see Michael Robertson.
Yes, I'm on the line.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so Vice Chair Harmillo, if you want to call the meeting to order, I can call the roll and establish a quorum.
Yes, thank you all. Call the meeting to order. It is Wednesday, February 16th. Calling the order officially at 6:42 p.m.
Okay, I will call the roll. Member Santana Sanchez,
Here.
Member Lucy,
Here.
Member Smith,
Here.
and Vice Chair, acting chair this evening, Vice Chair Harmillo.
Member Jaramillo, here.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to do the introduction first, or would you like me to read the announcement?
Can you go ahead and read the announcement?
Yeah. This meeting is live streamed and temporarily closed to in-person public participation. The clerk's office is in the process of hosting hybrid public meetings that will provide board members and members of the public with the option to participate in the meeting either in person or remotely. We thank you for your patience and support. To make a verbal comment at tonight's meeting, please dial 916-875-2501 and follow the prompts. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be contacted by phone and transferred into the meeting to make their public comment. Written comments are always accepted. Please send your email comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net. That's boardclerk@saccounty.net. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. That does it for the clerk's state announcement.
Thank you. And I will go ahead and read our introduction script for tonight. Welcome to tonight's meeting and thank you for coming. My name is Erica Jaramillo and I am the Vice Chairperson for the South Sacramento Community Planning Advisory Council, also known as South Sac CPAC. The CPAC members are volunteer citizens appointed by the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. The council shall be advisory only to county agencies. The purpose of the CPAC is to encourage citizen participation in the planning processes, provide local forums to develop and propose community goals and objects, to serve as a local sounding board for new proposals offered by county staff and others, and to assist the county planning agencies and the Board of Supervisors in carrying out approved community plans in the county's general plan. The function of the CPAC may include updating community goals and plans, develop and propose community improvement programs, review and comment upon proposed amendments to the general plan, specific plan, zoning changes, conditional use permits, otherwise known as CUPs, and related zoning matters. Advisory recommendations are forwarded to hearing bodies, including the zoning administrator, the subdivision review committee, the county planning commission, and the board of supervisors. Our meetings are always open to the public and are listed in local neighborhood newspapers, posted at our libraries and meeting sites. Courtesy notices are mailed to the property owners who live within 500 feet of the project based on the address on record and posted on the county's website.
Okay, with that, would you like me to call the first item?
Yes, please call the first item.
Okay. Item 1 is PLMP 2021-00063, Shady Pines Tentative Subdivision Map. This item is continued from January 12th, 2022. The project is located at 8440 Stevenson Avenue, south of East Stevenson Avenue along Elegante Way in the South Sacramento community. Request is for a tentative subdivision map and design review.
Hello, CPAC members. This is Desiree Fox. Confirming you all can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. I will proceed with my presentation of item number 1, which is the subdivision map in the South Sacramento community. Should I begin or are we waiting for some formatting?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, next slide.
Yeah, Phil, if you go to slideshow and start from beginning. There you go.
Awesome. All right, thank you. So the project site, as mentioned, is located at 8440 Stevenson Avenue, and it's on the southeastern corner of Elegante Way and Stevenson Avenue. The parcel is located within the SHCP, and there is an environmental document being prepared for this item. So an initial study is being written in order to determine what the level of secret review will be required for the subdivision. The primary land is valley grassland, and that's what covers the majority of the parcel. And the site is rectangular in nature and is currently developed with a one-story, 2,235 square foot single-family dwelling. Next slide. The parcel is located within the RD5 zoning district, and the surrounding parcels, for the most part, are all single-family residences within the RD5 zoning district. To the south of the property is a Larchmont Country Special Planning Area, but there are also single-family dwellings as well. Just to the north of that parcel, across from Stevenson Avenue, is a large 13.18-acre parcel, still zone RD5, and that lot is developed with 2 single-family dwellings. Next slide. The entitlement request before you today, and which will ultimately be heard by the Planning Commission, is a tentative subdivision map to divide a 1.92-acre parcel into 9 lots within the RD5 zoning district. The project also includes a design review to determine substantial compliance with the countywide design guidelines, and that is for determining compliance from a site design standpoint. The future single-family dwellings will not be reviewed through a design review process, but will be handled through strictly through the building permit process. Next slide. So on your screen is the tentative subdivision map. It's kind of small, but you should be able to access the PDF within your CPAC package. As mentioned, is a 9-lot subdivision map. The map is going to result in the connection of Wheatland Way. Currently, Wheatland stops at the terminus of the existing property, and it continues on to the east. So with the subdivision where the site improvement permitting section is proposing that Wheatland Way be connected for a 40-foot wide public street. There's also going to be the installation of sidewalks, curb, and gutter. That's going to be required by site improvement permit section, also known as SIPs. It's going to be a 4-foot wide sidewalk proposed, and there at this time is not significant grading issues, but prior to submittal of improvement plans, Department of Water Resources is going to require some grading plans in consideration of grading during the improvement plan portion of the project. Next slide. A few key points for the project. There's a short history of zoning code violations, but they mainly relate to overgrown vegetation and abandoned vehicles, as it is a fairly large parcel and there's a lot of land associated with it. The surrounding parcels are developed for RD5 in the RD5 zoning district. There has been a previous entitlement for this parcel proposing to subdivide the land into 2 single-family lots. The project I proposed is proposing a density of 4.7 dwelling units per gross acres, which is fairly compatible with the RD5 zoning district and its requirement. And as mentioned, the map will result in the connection of Wheatland Way and a 40-foot public road. The map right now includes building envelopes showing the setbacks and showing that any future home will meet the setback requirements that are listed within the zoning code, but there are no proposed elevations for the future dwellings. And at this time, there is no non-discretionary design review required for those future single-family dwellings. Next slide. Okay, cool. That concludes my introduction of the item. I am available to answer questions that you all may have for staff, and then there is an applicant representative on the line to answer questions that might be better suited for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and ask if any of our CPAC members have questions.
This is Member Lucy, if nobody else does. So this is to see how it is in sync with the countywide design guidelines, which in my quick review, it looks like primarily concerned about being in sync with the surrounding neighborhood, which appears to be largely. But I do see trying to keep large trees, existing trees. I'm curious, it looks like there are some trees on the lot of the existing residents. Are there any other trees that may be affected here? Torn down?
Give me some time. Let me look and see. I don't know if there was an arborist report submitted for this. So if you give me some time, I can look in the project file and see if there's trees on site that might be impacted, unless the applicant has that information ready.
I do. This is Mike Robertson, Baker Williams Engineering. Yeah, there is an arborist report on board. There are small trees on the site. Some of them are fruit trees that are going to come out. There's a pine tree that is leaning that needs to come.
Oh, we lost you.
The project that but trying to leave the ones that are on the perimeter of the project alone, because those are more likely can be saved. Because there's pretty much a bare piece of property. There is a tree exhibit that in the planning department that indicates the small trees that are coming out. Some crepe myrtles, Chinese tallow. There's no oak trees or black walnuts or any protected trees. Right?
So the design guidelines are talking about where heritage and other healthy large canopy trees exist, steps should be taken to preserve and plan around them. So yes, sounds like you're saying that would not be the case. Okay.
That's correct.
Nothing further at this point.
Just Member Smith, I just had a comment. I drove by the site before our last meeting that we didn't have, and it seems like this is just kind of the bare spot in the neighborhood, right? It does seem like a perfect place to integrate some more single-family housing. It'll fit right into the neighborhood. I didn't see a lot of trees out there. It did seem a little overgrown at the time, but like a fairly solid project site.
Do we have any other comments or questions? Member Smith, I didn't catch that. Was that like a statement or did you have a question?
No, it's just a statement. If there's no further questions, I'd be ready to move the item for approval.
Oh, awesome. Do we have anyone who's willing, or actually before we move, Member Smith, do we have any public comments?
No, this is Greg from the clerk's office. We do not have any public comments written or nobody's on the phone.
All right, thank you. Member Smith, would you like to make that motion again?
Motion to approve the project.
Do we have
I'll
a second?
Member Lucy, I'll second. Recommend approval.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Member Santana Sanchez,
Yes.
Member Lucy,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Jaramillo.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes with those members present. Would you like me to call in item 2?
Please call, yeah, item number 2.
Okay. Item number 2 is informational only. Item 2 is information relating to Senate Bill 9, SB 9, requirements to allow 2 primary dwellings on 1 parcel, to provide for ministerial processing of 2 lot tentative parcel maps, and to address expirations of tentative parcel map approvals. This item is also continued from January 2nd, 2022.
Good evening, CPAC members. This is Kimber Gutierrez, Senior Planner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Kimber Gutierrez, and I will be presenting the informational item, which provides an overview of the county's approach for implementing a new state law, which is Senate Bill 9. Next slide, please. So in September of 2021, Governor Newsom signed Senate Bill 9, or SB 9, which has three main components. The first is that it allows by right development of 2 homes or primary dwellings on a single lot within single-family residential zones. Second, that property owners can split 1 lot into 2 lots. And third, that tentative maps can be approved for 4 years rather than 3. I should note that a property can do both splitting a lot and placing 2 homes on the created lots. So all of these provisions are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, have certain requirements that must be met, and became effective on January 1st of 2022. On December 21st, 2021, the Board of Supervisors introduced county code amendments and updates to the Zoning Code's user guide to begin processing requests under SB 9. During the hearing, staff committed to attending all of the CPAC meetings and Planning Commission to discuss the new state laws. Next slide, please. In order for property owners to take advantage of these new laws, there is a 2-part locational and zoning test that must be met. The first part of the test is that properties must be located in a single-family residential zoning district. This requirement does not mean all zoning districts that allow for single-family development, but rather that the zoning districts that are primarily for the development of single-family homes. So county staff has concluded that this provision applies to our RD1 through our RD10 zoning districts, as well as potentially properties located in special planning areas and neighborhood preservation areas that have a single-family residential underlying zone. In addition to being located on properties zoned for single-family residential, the property must also be located in an urbanized area or urban cluster, as identified by the U.S. Census Bureau. The map on this graphic highlights eligible areas. So I should note that the map is based on 2010 census data, and we are expecting a revised map late 2022. For now, we will be using this map, the 2010 map, to determine areas that are eligible for SB 9 processing. What this means for South Sacramento is that the community is located within an urbanized area, but a specific property must be zoned appropriately in order to take advantage of SB 9 provisions. Next slide, please. In addition to these locational and zoning requirements, there are some other key provisions of the law that I want to go over with you all. As I mentioned, the request for 2 homes or lot splits are to be handled administratively and are not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Requests can be denied, but only if the building official finds that public health and safety would be compromised, so it's a very high bar. There are very limited conditions that can be applied to the projects, pretty much limited to easements with no off-site improvements or dedications, and parking unless located in specific areas. Requests can, however, be conditioned to prohibit short-term rentals of the properties, which the county does intend to do. The laws also drastically change the required development standards that the county has codified in our zoning code. For example, the county cannot require side or rear yard setbacks of more than 4 feet, and for parcel splits, the minimum lot size can be as small as 1,200 square feet. I should note that a key provision of the law relating to lot splits is that the property owner must sign an affidavit stating that they will live in one of the properties for 3 years. Next slide, please. Now I would like to walk you through how staff is anticipating lot splits requests to be handled. I also want to note that this is specific to the lot splits. For the 2 homes on 1 lot, those requests will move straight to a building permit with no additional planning review or conditioning. Staff has developed an SB9 application for parcel maps, which is on our website and available now. We will charge the same fee as charged for our other parcel maps, and we actually just received our first application earlier this month, so we will be kind of moving forward with that application. I don't believe it's in the South Sacramento community. But projects will be subject to our project review committee process to analyze the parcel maps as is done with other ministerial entitlements, mainly just design reviews. And then based on board direction, we will be notifying surrounding property owners and CPAC members. So this will be a courtesy notice of filed applications. Finally, the planning director will be the decision body for these SB9 parcel maps rather than the subdivision review committee. Appeals are very limited in scope, likely to be pretty much the applicant contesting conditions of approval, and any of those appeals would be considered by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Next slide, please. Regarding requests to build 2 homes on 1 lot, the county is intending to initially use our recently approved accessory dwelling unit development standards, as they generally seem to track with the approved law. However, I should say that we are waiting for state guidance, which could change this approach. This is due to the state law not specifically stating a maximum size for the second home on the property, but it indicates that the minimum size of 800 square feet. Therefore, the county's approach will be to put a cap on the maximum size of the second home. The upshot is that one of the 2 homes, so either attached or detached, could not be larger than 800 square feet or 1,000 square feet, depending on the bedroom count, with an option to apply for a discretionary permit to exceed the maximum size standards up to 1,200 square feet. So again, we may learn in the coming weeks or months that this approach is not consistent with state direction and will make necessary adjustments to our development standards. And next slide, please. As I noted earlier, we are working to implement this new law and to provide information to all of the CPACs and the Planning Commission. Over the course of the next few months, we expect to receive guidance from the state on SB9 that may influence zoning code changes related to development standards. And we are thinking that a package may be necessary to incorporate all of these changes. You will also begin to receive courtesy notices so that you are aware of lot splits in South Sacramento. That concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have some questions, but I want to go ahead and let other members go first.
Sure.
Member Smith, I have no questions.
Florida Santana Sanchez, I have no questions.
Member Lucy, I have a couple. Can you go back to slide 3 or 4, I believe? Public transit, there we go. Up slide 4. So exempts parking requirements for properties located within half-a-mile radius of specified public transit. Can you flesh out a little bit on what specified public transit means?
Sure. So I believe in our general plan, we flesh out public transit as being it could be a local bus station, it could be light rail, but I think the minimum requirement is that the bus has to have a specific frequency, and I believe it's every 20 to 30 minutes, I believe. So it has to have specific response times in order to apply for public transit.
It's actually the intersection of 2 or more major bus routes with a frequency of service interval of 15 minutes or less during morning and afternoon peak periods. Just wanted to get that out there. So if you have a property that's within half a mile of this, even a bus stop under that those circumstances. So you can forego parking. And my question is, for instance, in Fair Oaks or Oak Park, you have a lot of smaller properties or smaller houses on large lots, and you could have, a second lot easily in that area. What is the limit in terms of number of floors? You talked about 1,200, 800 square feet, but can you have a very narrow structure that's 2, 3, 4 stories tall if you really wanted to?
So the height requirements are not being changed at all with the new SB 9 requirements. So whatever the underlying zoning district is, the project would be subject to those height requirements of the underlying zone.
Okay, so
the height
if it's
requirement is not changing at all with the new Senate bill.
okay. So for instance, in an RD5 zone, can you give us an example of what that standard would be? You might have a lot of single story houses, and then is 2 stories the limit?
So for RD5, the maximum building height is 30 feet for 1 to 2. And then in order to increase the height to 3 stories or 40 feet, you would need a use permit by the zoning administrator.
You cut out there a little bit. So 30 feet.
So 30 feet is permitted outright, so that's 1 to 2 stories. In order to get an additional story, so to go to 3 feet, you would need to get a use permit by the zoning administrator.
Okay. Okay. But 3 feet is almost, you could fit 3 stories in there, but so that is a little out of keeping with a 1-story.
The requirement specifies, it says 30 feet, but then in parentheses it says 1 to 2 story.
Right,
So,
I'm just saying in perspective, you could fit 3 stories yes. Obviously you do need a permit to get the 3rd story though.
yes.
Okay, no other questions?
Okay.
Yeah, my questions are really, I guess, around the verification, or maybe I need more clarification about owners only having to fill out an affidavit saying that they'll live there for 3 years.
Yes. It is very, very difficult to enforce. Can you explain that a little bit more? And I just want to get a little bit of context that I'm a renter and I do tenant counseling. And it's we don't have these kind of services in Sacramento County. There is a protection program for tenants, where there's some level of accountability in the city. And what we're hearing on the ground from tenants who are being kicked out of single family homes specifically is that some of these homes, there's some profit in this for single family homeowners who want to split their lots. And right.
So I don't know, can you just explain a little bit more and maybe even talk about what is the county planning department doing, or what can they do around putting some accountability, maybe even some preventive incentive language in there around fees or being fined if they're not, if the affidavit, if they're signing something under penalty of perjury and they find out that they're not actually living there.
Yeah, so kind of just to explain it again, the urban lot split application does have a requirement that the property owner or the applicant is signing an affidavit stating that the applicant intends to occupy one of the housing units created by the urban lot split as their principal residence for a minimum of 3 years. So kind of as you were saying, it is something that is very difficult to track and something that is very difficult to enforce. We would need, at that point, if there's substantial evidence that the applicant is not using that housing unit as their principal residence, then it would end up being a code violation. But again, we would need some really substantial evidence in order to kind of make that claim and to move forward. I don't know if we have completely figured out like what the ramifications would be if we were able to kind of prove that the person was not living in the home. But I assume it would be something along of like violation fees and other code violation citations that would be part of our code enforcement department. But we have seen these in a number of, when I worked for a different jurisdiction, we had kind of an owner occupancy agreement required for accessory dwelling units too. And it is kind of, as you were saying too, it's something that is very difficult to put into effect and track.
Okay, so does the planning department have any plans on addressing this?
I mean, it's a state requirement, so it was part of the actual Senate bill
Right.
that was required. So we're just required to we are required to make sure that the applicants are signing the affidavit, but we don't really have any jurisdiction to, have anything more like to not have this requirement or to have something different than this requirement.
Okay. I don't know if might be directed towards you, Greg, but whoever's taking notes tonight, can you please include just noting this this gap in language?
Absolutely. I've got something down already. Concerns about renter protection language and how the county would prove that the applicant would be actually living in one dwelling for 3 years. Would you like to add to that?
And also looking at like, of course, most of the state bills leave broad and language in there so that local jurisdictions almost always have the ability to include local requirements in there.
Gotcha. I will add that to your concerns.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess my other question was, are these requests to split lots and add ADUs coming before the CPACs?
No. So essentially what the board had included with their approval and recommendation is that we provide courtesy notices to the CPACs. So the applications would not be required to receive like a recommendation from the CPACs, but we would be notifying you of when an application is filed. So it is pretty much a staff level approval and permit process. It's not required to go before any advisory bodies before going to the planning director for an approval or denial.
Okay. Can I make a request that CPAC, get some sort of notification, like whether that be in writing?
Yeah, you will be getting a courtesy notice of when an application is filed.
Okay.
So that is included as part of our process.
And how does that, does that get sent to us individually? How do we receive that?
Let's see. I think we were going to. I believe it was going to be an email form, kind of similar to how you receive the like agendas and meeting notices.
Okay. And is there a time frame that like so many days before it's heard, like that you guys send that out to us?
I believe it's when as soon as we get an application. So when an application is filed with our department, we will be sending out notifications as part of our review process, or as part of our initial review of the application.
Okay. For me, I think those are actually my only questions. Thank you for answering them and for your time putting this together and presenting to us. Do we have any? I'm going to just give one last ask. Does anyone else have questions on the CPAC?
Member Lucy, I have none.
Member Smith, I have none.
Lourdes Santana Sanchez, I have none.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comment, written or otherwise.
And this isn't an action item, right? This is just hearing? Okay.
Just information.
All right. Well, thank you. Is there another item on the agenda?
There is. Item 3 is that time of year for officer elections. This is also continued from January 12th, 2022. We can take a motion. We can do any number of things. We could take a motion and a second for each, for both chair and vice chair independently of each other. We could take, if you wanted to stick with what we're doing now, we could, with the current chair and vice chair, and if there was a motion and a second, we could stick with the status quo, or there could be a motion to change we could take vice chair and chair in one motion and vote is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Well, personally, I'm okay with keeping things as they are, but I definitely want to hear from others.
I'm curious, as part of the duties of the chair, it seems like we've had a few meetings where I think, Erica, you were going to present to the Board of Supervisors on a something that came before our council that they were going to move forward where we disagreed with or something like that. Can you flesh that out tell us what happened? Did you present, or was that Stephanie's also doing that, if you know?
Yeah, there were two different items. So one of them was the one that I presented on was I forget the name of the item, but it was the project where they wanted to put basically make it like a parking area for like large truck vehicles, or even just like passenger vehicles. And there were like 300 to 400 spots. Like that's how big the area was. And we denied that, recognizing just concerns around air quality issues and not having, for one, there's no federally regulated air monitors in South Sacramento at all right now. And my main concern about that is that there's no enforcement mechanism with like local air quality monitors that are being placed right now in South Sacramento. So if anyone's violating any type of environmental protections around air quality issues, there's no one who's watching it or enforcing it, or there's just no transparency around it. There's no requirement to do it for the public. And there are a lot of industrial and main, commercial throwaways in South Sacramento, Florin Road being one of them, Franklin. And so I presented our denial to the Board of Supervisors. They approved it anyways, basically citing that SAC AQMD spoke on that, and this was my take on it. My take on it was that because we have local, like they're called like low cost air monitors that are in different areas around that those were sufficient enough.
Okay. So that was
And
the
then,
feedback they gave
yeah.
from the reasoning. Okay.
And then the second one was for, and I don't know, Stephanie was, I think, supposed to take this one because I didn't volunteer for it. Well, no, it's the chairperson, I think, that does it, and I was still chair at that time. And then the denial on the second one was for mental health facility. Was it a mental health facility in South Oak Park, over by Roosevelt Avenue?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard anything on that being like heard at the Board of Supervisors.
And you said you or Stephanie were to present or did present?
Stephanie was gonna, at least whenever we get notified, because I got notified when the meeting was going to happen for the last denial. And so if she were to get notified for the Board of Supes hearing the one that we denied, the one in South Oak Park, then she would prepare something to do a hearing at that. And I haven't heard anything back.
Okay.
So to my knowledge, it hasn't even been heard by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Alma from the Clerk of the Board's office. What project is that?
It was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a mental health facility. Yeah, that we're going to expand. Like they're already there in South Oak Park, but they wanted to like expand their facility even further onto the land.
Wasn't the issue that it was just a little bit oversaturated? It was to the east of a school, elementary school?
It was. Yeah, so a couple things. It's oversaturated, and there were no guarantees that like people really needing the services locally here in Sacramento were going to be able to use them.
Kimber, did the CPAC you recommended denial, and then did you pre-approve a appeal?
Yeah, was this a planning application?
Yeah, I remember it, but I don't know if you pre-approved an appeal.
I don't remember if we did that either.
Yeah, we'll have to research that and find out. I remember the item, but I don't think it's gone to, but I mean, it might not be board that it goes to. Maybe go to zoning administrator or the subdivision review committee or even planning commission. But we would have to research and find out. And generally, Chris will just make an announcement at the meeting, which I'm sure he would have told Kimber to make an announcement if the item was being heard. But if it's appealed, if the CPAC authorized pre-authorized an appeal, that's something different. Then we would definitely notify the CPAC and let you know. And then you would have 10 days from the hearing date to file your appeal, your free appeal.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking through the projects we have in right now, and I'm not familiar with this one. So if we even have like a month of when it went to the CPAC, that would help too.
I'll try and look at.
Okay.
Thanks. Brooke, did you have, or does anyone have any comments about the elections?
I'm fairly open. I don't know if our two newer members have been here since I was chair, but going back, it was Stephanie, Erica, then me, then I forget who, yeah, way before our time. But yeah, I'm happy to serve in any role. I'm happy to continue as we are, either way, anyway. Whatever's necessary.
Yeah, I'm still pretty new around here. I mean, this typically and just give me a little history here. Is this typically an annual spirit of rotation? Things move around, or is it people to stay in their position for a while? Can you help me with some history?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, Burke, I'll let you answer part of that question, and then I'll go after you because you've been here longer, so you could speak to tradition, I guess.
Well, I've been on the CPAC for about 15 and a half years, and for most of that, Curtis Banks was the chair, and then he left. I was the chair for 4 years, and then the county started the standard for having annual review or elections, and I forget if that was just because, it might have been because of the new bylaws, I guess, but also we've been running into the new bylaws having a smaller CPAC, smaller number of people on the CPAC. I think the limit used to be 11, and now we've reached that, and that's why we lost Todd Lambert, because I assume we had met capacity and then probably had others interested in joining. So anyway, so I was chair for 4 years, Erica 1 year, I think, and then Stephanie 1 year, and here we are.
Yeah, so I mean, at least since I've been on it, it hasn't rotated, but I think we've definitely tried to make it so that everyone has an opportunity, to serve as chair or vice chair.
I kind of wish we could all get to actually meet each other in person. It's like today the mask mandate is lifted for California. I'm curious if we're ever going to go back to in-person meetings.
That's a good question too.
Well, it takes time. This is Alma from the clerk's office. It was take time for us to go all remote, and it's going to take time for us to all be in person, including the fact that some facilities are not allowing people to meet in person yet. So we are working on that list and working on transitioning back. I mean, this is one day.
Sure.
The county does not have the pivot that quickly and send our staff out, and then the facilities, most of them said they weren't. We just called them at the beginning of this month. A lot of the facilities said until we're open, until everything's open, we're not open. So we'll be working on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I really have an opinion. Like I said, I've only been here a few months. I mean, I'm fine with things continuing the way they are, just because I'm still kind of learning, absorbing everything. So I concede to the rest of you whatever you think is best.
Okay.
Lourdes Santana Sanchez, I agree to keeping it the same way. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Thank you for your guys' input. Yeah, I'm okay with keeping it as is.
I move we vote to keep the chair and vice chair as is.
Okay, so Mr. Lucy will take that as a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Erica?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Member Santana Sanchez?
Yes.
Member Lucy?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Jaramillo?
Yes.
Okay, and we had no public comment on that item as well, so we can move on to item 4, which is a staff update. Kimber, do you have any?
Yes, I just wanted to update the CPAC members that the Orchard Loop 7-Eleven expansion project that was heard by the CPAC in July was approved by the Board of Supervisors at their hearing today. And then also wanted to update that the Calvine Station Retail Center was heard by the CPAC in October. Will be going before the Subdivision Review Committee in March 17th. So those are the only updates that I have, but I did make a note to look into the other project that you guys were just mentioning. So I'll be able to have more information on that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Kimber, this is Greg. I'm sorry, real quick. I want to make sure I got it in the notes. That second item was the Calvine Station
Retail Center.
Retail Center. Okay, thank you.
And this is Alma from the clerk's office. I think I found that project. It was called Nueva Vista.
Yes,
Yeah, and that was in July.
Okay.
that sounds right.
So that one, I believe, is on hold. That has not gone to hearing yet.
I figured because I haven't seen it on the other boards. So I was just, and that's just off of memory. So I just wanted to make sure that to confirm with planning on where that's at.
Yes, that
And
one has
we'll
not.
we'll have to look at the action summary and see whether the CPAC approved pre-authorized an appeal. If not, then Chris will, like when the project gets to be moved on to the final hearing body, Chris usually, or planning staff usually makes an announcement at the CPAC.
Okay. And you know what I'll do too is, Burke, I appreciate you bringing this up. I remember sending a video, like the link to the video of when I spoke at the Board of Soups. And so I'll share that I'll send an email out and share that with everyone.
Good, thank you.
Okay, if that's it for the staff update, we can move on to item 5, which is council member comments.
The only comment I have is I just want to make sure that we get some follow-up from someone from the planning department. I guess preferably we could reach out to our Board of Supervisors around the SB 9 comments.
Sure. I'll make a note to provide some additional information about the affidavit process at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Member Smith. I was just hoping that as soon as a determination is made that we're going to meet in person, just for the sake of scheduling my own, like leaving for this meeting, I could leave a minute before it started, but I need to be conscious of my scheduling time once we go back to meeting, or when we go to meeting together live. So as soon as you have any idea, I would really appreciate a note so I can plan accordingly. Thank you.
All right, what was that request? I didn't quite understand.
When we're ready to start going back to meeting in person, I was just hoping that as soon as you know anything, if you would please let me know so I can address my scheduling.
Of course.
I allocate enough time. These meetings are great because you can leave right a minute. You can show up a minute before it starts. But I just want to make sure I budget my time accordingly.
I agree. Thank you. I agree. But
Thank you.
we will try our best. Did you get the meeting schedule from Rochelle Rolanka?
I don't think I did. No.
And so you meet every third Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
So we'll have, I can have her send you a schedule, or you can just know that you're going to meet every third Wednesday of the month. And then as soon as we know the facility we'll use, we'll send it out. But as far as the start date, I'm not really sure yet. But as soon as we can send that information to the members, we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Member Lucy. As you're determining the standards for if and when we go meet in person, I'd be curious to know what standards you'll be going by in terms of vaccination status. Like, we don't have to wear a mask if we're vaccinated, but we don't need to prove vaccination, which makes me a little on the uncomfortable side. Personally, I'm happy to share vaccination status. Just throwing it out there. But I would feel uncomfortable if I didn't know anybody was vaccinated or not, and then feel uncomfortable having to wear a mask the whole evening. That's the fun part of meeting in person. So I'll be curious to know what direction you're going with that kind of thing.
Well, to be honest, remember, we aren't allowed to
Right.
ask.
Right.
So we would be concerned about our staff, and we cannot govern what the public or the members are going to do. And a lot of it might depend, it's probably going to depend on the facility,
How so?
on what they're going to require.
What they're what?
What they will require, whether we're vaccinated or not, we still have to wear masks, but they can't ask. I mean, so it won't be, and we can't ask. So,
Right.
it'll depend a lot on the facilities that we use to hold our meeting, probably.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. My employer has asked. I guess it's some kind of quasi-voluntary kind of thing. LEPA. And that's government.
Okay, would you like me to move on to item 6? That will be public comments, of which we have none at the moment, written or otherwise.
Okay, thank you. I guess with that being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn, and thank you everyone for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.